if you say something equal, what it means is that assume you want to buy a car, right? So maybe let's say you want to purchase any car, and then the price of this car is let's say that is equal to an amount of, just by an assumption, $2,500, right? So that is the price of the car. This sign here is telling you that the price of this car, the value of this car is exactly the same as the value of $2,500, right? So the operation here, which is by name equal to, right? Equal to, it means whatever you are having here should be equal to whatever you are supposed to be. It should be the same. The value of this one should be the same as the value of this one. Okay, since the demand for human beings varies, right? So depending on whatever you want to buy, whatever another person also wants to buy. So what it means is that mathematically we use a variable to represent any item that we don't know yet, right? So I may buy a marker, someone will buy a car, another person will buy a different thing. So if that's the case, let's say x is equal to an amount of 2,500. So whatever you want to buy, you can replace this value of the x with that, right? So that is very, very simple. Now, if what happens if you say that x plus 1, that is equal to an amount of, let's say, 10, right? So it means that you know the price of one item. Assume you want to buy two different items here. So now the price of one item, that is just $1, right? So $1 here, which we don't know the price of the other one. But all that we know is that if you sum the two, you are going to have $10. So you have to calculate this one, right? So that's also why mathematics comes in. So the way of doing that, you just have to know the approach to use and how to do that. Is that okay? So here you subtract 1 from both sides of the equation. So you are going to have your x that is equal to 9, right? So that is all very, very obvious and straightforward. Now, talking about the equalities of what I said, the same scenario we are going to apply here, that we want to determine the values of this variable, the missing item here, which is the y, right? So that in order, if you subtract these two guys, these two people, we are going to have just $1, right? That is very, very simple. So make sure that you stay to the end of this video to know how to solve something like this. Now your first step is to take this person, right? So the second guy here to the other side of the equation, or maybe you can add what the same to the both side of the equation. So what I'm trying to do here is that here will be what we are not doing anything to this. Remember that everything here is just what 1, and then everything here is also 1. So on the left hand side of this equation here, we are having what 2 people. Is that okay? Okay, now taking remaining the same first person here, that was y plus or 7, and then equal to, right? So maybe sometimes you can add, because this is a subtraction, so you can add the same 2 to the both side of the equation, right? So there we are going to have 1 plus root of 3y minus 2. Is that okay? Okay, that is very, very obvious. So now your next line is that we are going to take a square of both sides of the equation. The reason is that we want this square root to vanish. Look at something. Just look at something. If you have something like root of x is equal to 2, right? You want to solve this thing. All that you are going to do here, because you want this square root to vanish, you are going to take what a square for both sides of the equation, so that this one will cancel this, right? So we have our x equal to 4. Now we want to know the values of the y, since you guys are hiding yourself under a certain item, right? So you want to take off that, so we are going to square what. So here squaring what both sides of the equation, right? So you are going to square both sides of the equation, then we have, so this is what we are going to get. So if you square both sides of the equation, that is equal to 1 plus root of 3y minus 2. So we are taking what? The square of both sides of the equation. So meaning we square this one, and then we are going to square everything. Remember, everything, you are going to square everything. This is what I mean by everything, right? So this guy will cancel that. Can you see? They will cancel out. So here we are going to left with y plus 7, right? So y plus 7 here, and then equal to, remember how to square this, right? So there's a simple and straightforward. This is 3. Is that okay? Now remember how to do this thing. So if you don't know how to do this, you can expand this thing into 2. Okay, if you have x squared, that is exactly the same as s multiplied by what? By x. Is that okay? Now, if you have s plus 1, everything squared here, it's the same as what? S plus 1, then multiply by what? X plus 1. Is that okay? Now, perfect. There's a shortcut and a straightforward to do that is by doing what? Squaring the first one, right? So you square the first one, that will give us x squared. And then you use this 2 to multiply everything in the bracket. So 2 multiplied by 1, that should be a positive 2. And then the answer multiplied by whatever is here. So that will give me what? X, right? So 2 multiplied by x, that will give me a 2x. And then finally, you square everything here. So positive 1 squared, that will be your plus 1, right? I take it again, or maybe you may go back. So you square the first item here, the first person here, that gives you the answer, and then you take the 2 multiplied by whatever is here, that will be what, 2, and then multiply by the third one, which is the x, that gives us what, 2s, and then finally you square whatever is here. So 1 square will give us what, 1. The same thing, if you expand this thing, you are going to have what, the same. I guess you may pause the video and try this. Once you know this trick, you can easily apply it at this point. But if you cannot apply, you can decide to expand everything into 2 and then do your expansion, right? So let's move on. So if you square the first person here, which is 1, we are going to have a 1, right? And then 2 multiplied by everything here, right? So plus 2 multiplied by everything will give us 2 multiplied by the root of 3y minus 2, and then times the answer, right? So times the answer multiplied by this one here will give us 2, 2. If you want to see clear, that should be 2 multiplied by the 1 here, and then multiply by what? Everything here. That is give us 3y minus 2. This is what we are having. Is that okay? Okay, so perfect. Then finally, we are going to square everything here. So positive what? Root of 3y minus 2. Remember, if there's a negative here, the negative is affecting this guy, right? So pay a close attention to that. But here is exactly what? A positive answer. So let's move. We are going to square everything here. So plus square root of 3y plus 2, everything what? Everything squared. Is that okay? Okay, perfect. So now let's move on. We are having what? Our y plus what? Plus 7. That is equal to 1. This multiplied by that, that should be positive to root of what? 3y plus what? Plus 2. Right? And then finally here, can you see that the square root is being taken away? So here we are going to have plus what? 3y and then what? Plus what? Plus 2. Right? Okay, here we can see some common members here, right? They are all coming from the same family. So what I mean by that is that we have 1 and a 2 here. Okay, they are coming from the same family. What I mean by that is we can group the items. Okay, so here we are having what y plus what plus 7, that is equal to this plus this one will give us just 3, right? So 3, that should be plus 2 root of 3y and then plus 2, and then remember there is a 3y here, so plus 3y, right? Okay, don't say there's a 3y in this and so you are going to take this 3y and add it. No, this guy has a roofing, right? You have a roofing, so you are adding somewhere, so for that reason we cannot combine the two of you. Okay, now proceeding from this point, so we are going to group once again. So group means that we take this guy here, this guy and this guy, they have the same thing in common, right? As well as this 3y, there's another y here which is a loom. You don't have any roofing, so both of you can move together, right? Both of you are siblings, so you can mingle together. So let's see how to combine these two people. So in some cases, we can take this guy as well as this guy to the other side of the equation. So the way of doing this, in some books, you can be taught to maybe here you subtract by 3 here and then you subtract by 3y here, right? So it doesn't matter whichever approach you want to take. So whatever you do on the left hand side, you have to do the same thing on the right hand side as well. So here we are having our y plus 7. They are already here, right? And then so this guy minus 3, and then this guy minus 3y, right? Obviously, so everything vanishes. So here we are just going to left it positive 2. There's an equal to sign, right? So that there must be an equal to sign. So positive 2 equal to root of 3y and then plus 2. Is that okay? So that is very, very, very simple and straightforward. So here let's do the addition and the subtraction. So here number is first. So here we are going to have that should be 4, right? So that should be 4. So that should be 4. And then this minus this one, we are going to get negative 2y. Is that okay? So just like by saying y minus 3y. Is that okay? So here we are having 3y. Remember, this is just an algebraic expression. If the variables are the same, they just deal with the numbers. So meaning that 1 minus 3, that should give us negative 2. Right? Okay. If you're enjoying this video, just give us a thumbs up, subscribe to the channel, comment down below if you have any issue. Right? Okay, let's proceed. Now here you are going to have 2 root of 3y and then plus 2. Right? Okay, perfect. Now what are we going to do here? I remember our aim here is to take off this square root here at this point. Is that okay? So that we can have a simple and a straightforward, just like at the beginning of this video, what I introduced on how to do that simple equation, right? Find the values of the x. So this is our warriors right now, right? So you have to take this guy away. So the opposite of this square root here is, of course, the square, right? So what are we going to do? We are going to square both sides of the equation here, right? So you square here, right? So remember, you have to square both sides of the equation. So you square here, and then as well as you square everything here. Why are we squaring? We are squaring because we want this square root to vanish so that you can easily use what we know, right? Okay, now you square this one, you know how to do this. I guess you should pause the video at this point and come back and come and check the solutions. Okay, so perfect. Now look at something here. At this point, for you to square this thing, maybe if the numbers are very huge for you, what I mean by the huge here, if there's a possibility for you to reduce the numbers before you square, that will be very good, right? So I intentionally brought this thing for you to see that if there's a need for you to reduce the numbers, you can easily reduce before what you proceed squaring. At this point, it's very important. Is that okay? So I advise you to reduce the equation here. So what I mean by reducing the equation here is that if you have something like, let's say, 2s that is equal to 4, what are you going to do? You divide both sides of the equation by 2 for you to have the simplest form. Now the idea here is that I can see 2, 2, 2, 2 everywhere of this equation, right? Is that okay? So there I can see 2 out of the 4, 2 out of the negative 2. There's also 2 out of this one. So you divide everywhere by 2, meaning that if you divide here by 2, you are going to have 2, right? So of course, let's maintain our bracket. So you divide here by 2, you are going to have your 2. This guy divided by 2, so negative y. And then we maintain our square here, and then that is equal to here. If you divide here by 2, this 2 will vanish. So you are going to have a root of 3y and then plus 2 everything squared. You may do this thing before squaring it, whichever the case may be. Right? So I would advise you up to this point, you have to make sure that you check whether you can divide all the numbers here by a certain number. Remember, the division does not affect the one inside this radical, right? It affects only the number that is approach to the radical here. Okay, now here we can do our square, right? You expand the bracket. So this guy is square, that will give us, that should be 4, right? So this multiplied by that should be negative 2 multiplied by this one, that should be negative 4y, right? So negative 4y equal to, you square everything and the square root goes away. So you have 3y, and then remember here you have to square this one, right? So yeah, that's very important. So you have to square this one. So plus or positive y square. Remember, the negative is affecting this. I said this before, right? So the negative is affecting the y here. So you have a negative y square will give us a positive y square. So here we are going to have a 3y and then what, plus 2. Yeah. So okay, here you can group the system, right? So where are we heading to? We are heading towards what? A quadratic, right? So that's very simple and straightforward on how to solve the quadratic equation. By grouping this thing here, we are going to have a, so after grouping, this is what I'm having. So if you're having a different answer, just let me know in the comment section below. You just need to group this guy, send everything to the left hand side of the equation, right? So here you're having the 2 will go, right? So you subtract 2 from both sides of the equation. That's your first step. And then here you combine this and that. Is that okay? And then you proceed at that point. Okay, let's have a look at something. There's a simple addition subtraction mistake here. So here, remember, as at this point here, right? From this point here you are having what, positive 3y minus 2, right? But here, look at something. I made a mistake. That was a typing or writing mistake here. Here's supposed to be a negative. Is that okay? From here, from this point, so that is affecting. So you have to change this sign to A negative, right? So a negative here. So meaning that here we are going to be affected by what? A negative, right? So here will be what? A negative. Does it make sense? So that is what something that you have to pay a close attention to. So from this point, if you subtract this one by the negative two, you are going to left with a negative one, right? So here you send everything to the right hand side of the equation. So meaning that here this guy should go. So this guy should go, right? So here look at the correction here. So if you send everything to the left hand, that should be what? Minus one, right? Minus one, so y plus what? Y plus what? 7 here minus 1 and then plus what? Plus 2 on what? The right hand side of the equation. Meaning that we are going to have what? Y. This one, that should be what? This one should be positive what? Positive 6. Positive 8, right? So here should be a positive 8. So here we are having a y value to be positive what? Y plus what? Y plus 8. Is that okay? So make sure that you correct that. Okay, so if you have y plus 8, meaning that everything here should go is going to be y plus or y plus 8 on this on this side of the equation, right? So here tends to be here tends to be 8. Is that okay? So if here is what? Here is 8, then you can reduce everything by 2. So if you reduce it by 2, that will give us what? That will give us 4, right? So this one should tell you that you have to pay a closer attention to negative and positive if you are dealing with problems like this. Okay, now here if you square this one, you remember you are going to have a 16, right? So here this guy multiplied by that should be what? Negative 2 multiplied by what? This one, that should be what? Negative 8y, and then you square this one, you're going to have a positive y squared, right? So perfect. Now here we can do our calculation. So starting with what? Y squared here, and then we are having what? Followed by what? Negative what? 8y, right? And then this guy subtract minus what? Y3 from both sides of the equation. That will give us what? Y3, and then here we are going to left with positive 16, and then positive 16, and then minus 2. Everything equal to 0. Is that okay? Maybe you may send this thing to the left hand of the equation. That is okay. So here we are having our y squared. So plus 18, everything is equal to 0, right? This is what we call a quadratic equation, right? So the name of this one is a quadratic. So you should know how to solve a quadratic. If you don't know how to solve the quadratic, check our playlist on this issue. On said maybe you may come across some of these questions here. But if you have an issue, once again, comment down below, right? So by factorization or completing of the square, whichever you want to approach. But here, if you use a factorization method, you should have what? Y minus 2 and then y minus 9, everything equal to 0. So this is just what by the factorization method. Okay, you have to solve everything one by one. So you have what? Y, that is equal to y minus 2. Solving the bracket separately, y equal to 2 implies that you have a y equal to 2 here, and then here too you have what? Y should be equal to what? Equal to 9, right? So equal to 9. Now look at something. There's a very important thing here. It's okay, very important. So you have two values of the y. That is y equal to 2 or y equal to 9. This is the answer that we have, right? So these are the missing price of the item. They have two different prices. Which one satisfy the equation? It is very important. So one is what? Someone is saying the value of the item, the missing item is $2. Another person is also saying $9. So how do you believe that? So the way of doing that is you have to pick this values one by one, right? So one by one, and then plug that into this equation and set and check which one hold. So here you first of all have to replace the y by 2 here to y by 2 and check whether you are going to have 1, and the second one you replace that by 9, and then you replace that by 9, check which one you are going to have 1. Whatever your answer, the correct answer is, give me your answer in the comment section below now.